I need social leverage online to do the things that I want to do. Maybe that's a limiting belief or something I'm telling myself, but that feels like a good use of time when I don't necessarily have one particular thing that I'm driving towards. Just having that and kind of putting that out into the ether, things just happen. Like you approach life in every situation just differently. You show up a better person. You're more present with people. You find the good in things. You find the good in other people, and you focus on developing yourself as a person. And it really is like that alchemical process of like, wow, this is life. I started projecting my desire to be accepted by other people and was like, okay, I'm going to do these things too. I need to act like that. It's kind of like when people say, oh, money won't make you happy. It's like, well, I'm going to go double check. Like, you know what I mean? Like, right. Sure, we can intellectualize about this all day, every day, but until you have direct experience with these things, it's like knowing something versus understanding it. Going to play some basketball with the boys, you're going to get some ice cream after that. It's just like, play some video games, maybe some CODs, zombies. Love zombies all day, every day. Like, just that sort of energy. Like, carefree. Nothing. Like, I can't relate to any of these kids. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Everyone seems like they have the perfect thing to say to make the other kid laugh. I'm like, none of this stuff is funny to me, but I guess I'll laugh anyways. There's something about the service level, just get down to who we are. It's like, we all have jobs. It's like, what are you trying to do though? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's like, those are the people I want to talk to. It's like, I don't know what you do. What are you really trying to do? Let's talk about that, because that's when people light up. And I like to be around people who light up, because I had not been compassionate with myself. And so it was like, okay, let's right the ship. The ship is in the water. We are capsized right now. We need to somehow like rejigger this whole thing and flip it back up. And like, then let's just steer the ship towards something. I have an insane vision for my life and am doing everything in my power. Like, by definition, everything in my power, I don't think people understand how many people are going to start doing this. Like, tons of people have started, but it's like, it's always like, it's still so early, but it's truly still so early.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of David's Saturday Night Sit Back. Tonight, or this morning rather, I have Nick Daigler sitting across from me, and he is a 25-year-old Gen Z friend of mine here in Austin, Texas, who is curiously diving into content creation, letter writing, fitness, artificial intelligence, and much more. Nick is a graduate from Tufts University with a bachelor's in computer science and has held roles at places like Reddit, Pear, and Nifty Island. Nick and I met on a walk, and I invited him on the show because I loved his self-awareness and his curiosity for abstract ways at self-improvement. Nick's YouTube channel has some great videos on abnormal sleep hacks, some tricks to living alone without losing your sanity. And today, Nick is on the show to talk to us about his own personal journey. I'm so grateful to have you here, Nick. Welcome to your episode of David's Saturday Night Sit Back.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, man.
I'm
Thanks
excited
for being here. I'm
Thank
excited
you.
too. So let's expand a little bit on how we met. It was not like we were both walking down the street and we crossed paths. Can you tell the audience, what is this walk that you and me have been going on every week?
Sure. Every Saturday morning, we go to this walk here in Austin, Texas. A bunch of similarly minded, curious people come together, and the whole premise is you have some sort of topic that you want to discuss. And it's at 8 a.m. every Saturday. So the type of people that show up at 8 a.m. on a Saturday probably didn't go out last night, maybe settled in with a good book their Friday evening. And so it's a particular kind of person that comes to these walks, and you're choosing to be there, which I find incredibly valuable and fascinating. As we met at one of these walks like a month ago, 2 months ago.
Something like that. I've been going, today was number 10 for me. And I feel like I met you pretty early on.
Yeah.
Not to say we've necessarily talked every week, but I think you and me probably met 2 months ago.
Yes, I think so too. I don't know how many walks I started. I think in December, maybe end of November, and then I stopped for a while. And I think I met you maybe on the second or third walk as I've been like coming back.
You've been pretty consistent. You've been doing good.
Yeah, yeah, I enjoy them. It's kind of grounds my week, honestly, this Saturday morning.
It's been my new favorite. I've loved it. I do think that eventually I will miss one, especially as we get more into the summertime and it warms up a little bit in the mornings. But it's my new favorite hobby on Saturdays, man. Like, I get back here and typically I will cook a fresh lunch. And then the dog he's exhausted. He didn't eat his breakfast because he just wants to go back to bed. I'll just puzzle for a little bit and listen to a podcast. And like, dude, Saturdays are so chill ever since I found this walk. It's been great.
Yeah. My Saturdays after the walks are typically like usually I'll hit the gym before. If I don't, I'll like go back, maybe finish a workout. If I don't quite finish it, or it's like whole workout right after the walk, I'll go back, same thing, make a nice lunch, settle in, maybe read a little bit, then whatever else is on tap for the day, go on a walk again with a girlfriend, or yeah.
It's wild to me that you make the gym before the walk. Like, I know you sort of live in the area that the walk starts, whereas me, like, if I was to hit the gym, it'd be a whole thing. Now that you know where I live, like, I'd have to figure out which goals am I going to go to. And yeah, good for you. Keep it up.
I go to bed early though, so it's not like a good for me. It's more like we're all just getting that window's just shifted that we're sleeping.
Yeah,
and that's a good catch.
Thank you. It's funny too that you mentioned the type of people that show up typically like don't go out the night before. I did not go out last night, but like I told you, I did have 3 comedians over. We were pouring drinks. They did leave at 12:30.
Okay.
I did not go to bed until 1:30, and I was not drunk because I knew I just didn't want to be hungover this morning was number one. But even if you have a couple drinks, like it does hit you when you wake up, or even your sleep, is different when you've been drinking some. But man, when that alarm went off this morning, it was you that got me here today, because
wow.
if we had not agreed to do this podcast, today would have been the first week that I would have been like, you know what? I'm staying in bed. I'm going back to sleep. I went to bed at 1:30. I'm exhausted. So thank you for getting me out of bed this morning.
Thank you. No, hearing that, like, wow, I'm glad I could play a role in you coming to the walk.
You played a role in me coming to the walk today.
That's incredible.
So when we were driving back here, I went on a little rant about fish. I've been eating fish like no tomorrow. Raw fish, seared fish, tuna, salmon, octopus. What else have I had? I had mussels a couple weekends ago. Dude, I have been devout. The ocean does not like me right now. I am an enemy of the sea because I've just been eating like pork and chicken and steaks have all taken a back seat in the last 3 to 4 weeks. I just fucking love fish so much. Mm-hmm. And you told me.
Yes.
And I asked you, do you eat fish?
I do not.
Why not?
And my response was, I just don't eat things from the sea.
Why?
I don't know. I think I had probably a weird encounter with fish sticks when I was younger. And like I've tried to like walk it back. We could do it live here on the pod. I'm trying to think of when that moment was where I was like, I just don't, am I allowed to curse? Mm-hmm. Okay. I just don't fuck with that. I don't know. I don't fuck with fish. There's something about it. I think it's the texture, the sliminess. I don't know. Sushi, I've tried sushi once in college and I spit it out. I tried an oyster once and I remember almost throwing up. It was like drenched in butter too. And like,
oh, well, you did it wrong. You can't break the ice with an oyster. You got to eat, or even with sushi, you got to like start with the cooked stuff. You got to go from like fish sticks to like a fish and chips, right? So it's cooked, it's breaded. You got the tartar sauce. You can't go from fish stick to oyster. That's like if someone never went to the gym, and they're like, "Hey Nick, can I work out with you?" And you say, "Sure, David." And then you take David on a 3-hour leg workout. Like I would never go back again. You know? Like I feel like that's awful.
That's probably what happened to me. I think I had the equivalent of like a 3-hour brutal like session. We're doing leg press, Romanian deadlifts, like we're doing all the
split squats.
Yeah, all that. And I got that in fish form, and I think that's why, or potentially a reason. It's also easier because like I feel like a lot of things like sushi or maybe oysters are in like a social scene. I just don't want to ever have that moment where like, or I just haven't opened up to that moment where it's like, oh, it's this guy's first time, like, and then it not going well. Like I've played that in my mind too. So I have this sort of like internal narrative about how that first time of me trying it would go, because I'm really sensitive to the texture of it. Or like that's what I tell myself. Only with fish though. So I think it's that story that I'm telling myself about how it'll go down. It's like maybe one reason why I don't.
You just need to go with people you feel safe with.
Yeah.
Like you and me, one Saturday, like you, me, and Michael need to go get
Yeah.
not sushi. We need to go to like a Red Lobster,
Dude.
you know, or something.
I need a safe space for fish.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like me and your brother, that's pretty safe, right?
Yeah, no, that'd be
But
dope.
if does he have? Is he dating anyone right now?
No, he's not. No.
I was gonna say your girlfriend could come unless she doesn't want, like, I don't know if she'd want to hang out with 3 dudes and you trying
probably
to
not.
All right, so yeah, you and me and Michael, we can, dude, let's do that. We got like a list of things that we're gonna get done this summer. We're gonna skydive. We're gonna eat
Yes.
fish.
I
This
thought
is
you were
good.
serious about that. On the walk, I guess for context, I'll tell the story
Please
here.
do.
You asked me if I'd ever been skydiving, and I was like, no. And you were like, do you want to go today or something? I'm not sure if you said today, but I was like, yeah, let's do it. I had this pit in my stomach. I was like, what did I just get myself into? Like, are we going to even record this?
I'm not gonna lie. In that moment, if this had all been going down in Sacramento, California, where I'm from, we would not be podcasting right now because I know exactly what hangar I would have driven us to, how much it costs, the divers, the waivers, the process. There is something to like going somewhere where I've been familiar with, whereas we were like 20 minutes from ending the walk, and it was like, well, I would have to do all this research really quick to see, is there a place within a reasonable drive time so that we can get you to your podcast on time, and just all these different I'm a planner, but I do love being spontaneous, not with skydiving. Yes. We need a little bit more
Yes.
research.
Yes. I feel like something could have gone terribly wrong, or at least that's what I'm telling myself.
No, nothing would have gone wrong. Maybe death.
That would not be ideal.
But maybe that would just... So we were actually talking... This was one of the topics that in the first group that I was walking with. Do you believe in ghosts? Or some sort of paranormal, spiritual entity that is alive on Earth that is not necessarily human?
Yes.
Why?
Because of the mystical experiences I've had through psychedelics. I don't know if it's ghosts. I believe in God. But I don't know. Like, I've never encountered ghosts. I've heard people that I'm close to talk about different paranormal things, like girlfriend. After her grandpa died, she's told me stories about how, like, she would smell his perfume or the cologne he would wear. She would get calls from his phone number and pick up, and no one would be there, but the line would just be, yeah, someone's on the other end, but no one's saying anything. Doors slamming in their old house where he lived, and just weird stuff like that. So like, I'm very open-minded.
I do as well. I've heard some stories. There's only been 2 instances. So has anything happened to you personally?
No, that's the thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all belief for me.
Or outside of the psychedelics?
Yeah, nothing in the realm of like what people would think of like paranormal or like ghosts. Like, no, not that I can remember.
There is one time in, it was Christmas time, 2020, at my place in California, and I thought I woke up. So it was the middle of the night, I was in bed, and I thought I was awake. And I looked down at the end of the bed, and I think I see something there, but I have blackout curtains. I love sleeping in a pitch black room.
Same.
I was going to say, you're an advocate of this.
Yeah.
You're my people when it comes to sleep habits. And so I keep a lamp next to the bed, and I flick it on, and there was a shape of a human at the foot of the bed, but you couldn't see the arms and the chest and the head. It was almost like if you had a bedsheet over you, which sounds, that now that I'm saying that out loud, it sounds super corny, but because that's like how ghosts are portrayed in like kids books, right? But it wasn't necessarily a bedsheet. It was just like this black entity, 6 feet ish tall. And I had never, and I try to not say like never ever very often. I'm pretty careful about when I use those terms. I was more afraid of this entity than the 7 times I've been skydiving.
Wow.
There is this fear of like, I am going to fight for my life right now. And I had no heads up that this was going to happen. Then have you ever waken up and you, like, without even subconsciously thinking about it, you're like immediately sitting up?
Yes. When I was a child, nothing ever happened. What's coming up for me right now is also times where I'd wake up and my head is at the foot of the bed. That always freaks me the fuck out too.
Yes.
I'm like, did someone move me? Or like, I have this strange sense of like, I'm being watched right now. Like I'm getting chills like talking about it.
This is great.
Yeah. And I never, like nothing's coming up for like just, you mean when you wake up just sitting up immediately? Or
So I thought I was awake. That's how real this, I guess this could be considered a lucid dream, maybe?
sleep paralysis as well. I've heard people.
Could have been that. So then I actually woke up. So I thought I was awake. It was not a, you obviously we've both dreamt. You know when you dream. You wake up and you're like, oh, that's crazy. Why did I dream about like a plant chasing me through a field? That's not, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and even when you had the dream, you sort of like subconsciously knew it was a dream. You were still asleep. This felt like I was awake. So then I woke up again and I went from lying down to shooting up to, I'm in bed, so my legs are out and I'm like this. And I immediately lean over and I flick the lamp on and it's not there.
Oh, so you were laying down when this happened.
Yes, so in the dream, if you could call it that, I had my blankets on and I usually just sleep like, I'm pretty good at just like sleeping like this, very boring. And so I woke up and I opened my eyes, flipped the lamp on, entities at the foot of my bed, rush of fear, wake up for real, sit up, flick on light, nothing's there, but the fear's still there.
It's interesting that you're flicking on the light because what immediately jumped to mind was, okay, this sounds like sleep paralysis. I heard a friend of mine recently describe one of his experiences with sleep paralysis, the same thing. Like, sounds like the corny, like a sheet is hanging over this entity, the same sort of vibe, but he couldn't move. But you could move, it sounds like.
I was able to flip on the light.
Yeah.
I've had other buddies. So I've read a book. So yeah, our body does put itself in a state of paralysis so that you don't kill yourself when you're asleep. Because the way your dreams work is you could fling yourself off the bed, so you really are paralyzed when you're asleep. So that's a real thing. That's science. But I was out of the paralysis because I was able to flip the light on. When I saw the entity wasn't there anymore and I was actually awake, I was so scared, like a child, dude. I turned on every light, looked in every closet, double checked every door was locked because I just had the sense that something had come into my home. And it's almost illogical that I was checking that the windows were locked because it's like, I knew it wasn't human. So therefore it didn't enter through a window or a door, but there is still something inside of me that it made me feel better to make sure everything was still secured. It was a weird night. That's been my only brush with something that like, I really believed that something was there. Even when I woke up, I was like, something just feels.
Has that happened again? Or
Never,
just that one time.
It never happened before. It hasn't happened since.
Where was this?
In my apartment in Sacramento, California.
Oh, wow.
I was living alone, didn't have the dog yet, so there was no one else there. I was looking under the bed. I was looking behind the shower curtain. I had to look everywhere, and I don't even really know what I was looking for.
Something to ground yourself in, though.
I guess.
Yeah, because it's hard. Because like, I mean, this is one reason I don't watch scary movies. Like, my mind just starts racing. This is a hot take. I just think like watching scary movies is just like not. I think it's like hurting yourself, like actively like hurting yourself, because Are you like, do you watch scary movies?
I do. I love them.
You love them. Okay,
Yes.
so this would be good. Why do you watch scary movies?
So I like the storytelling that's a good question. Hang on, let me think. I'll get that in a second. So the last one I watched, it did put me on edge a little bit. Like most of them are bad. First off, so I've watched a ton, and for every 20 I watch, one will have some sort of effect on me.
They all affect me.
See, I wish I had that. I wish I could watch like a badly produced scary movie and be like, whoo.
Yeah.
I don't. They don't. Maybe it's because I've watched so many.
That could be.
But the last one, part of the reason that made it scary is because I'm sitting in that chair, and all the lights were off except for the TV, and I catch something out of the corner of my eye, and on this wall there is a giant cockroach skittering down the wall.
Oh my gosh.
You know when you can feel your whole body tingle, almost like you got hit with some cold air.
Yeah.
I was like, why? Of all the times there could be a cockroach in this home,
Like, why now?
there has to be one at the climax of this movie.
The climax of the movie too. Like,
It was like 20 minutes before the end, so we
Oh,
are like,
wow.
all the reveals are happening, and you're just like, don't know if the main character is gonna live or die, and you're already sort of jumpy, and then you're just like, cockroach.
I know the vibe. Yeah, that is very, maybe not inopportune. Maybe it just like heightens that sense of, just trying to feel something.
I do wonder if maybe there's a part of my psychology where I feel I like changing the way that I feel. I mean, it's the fact that I love skydiving, roller coaster, scary movies, even like podcasting. Even though we're just like sitting here right now, like I feel great. Like this is like I got fucking Nick Daigler's in the room with me, and we're on mic.
I'm feeling it too.
This is gonna go out into the universe, and like my mom will watch and nobody else, but that's okay. And this is like my brother too. But I don't know, man. I do wonder if maybe there's like a part of there, like maybe I'm an addict to getting rushes.
I don't know.
Because I do think when some people think of the term addict, you immediately think like, oh, they're addicted to alcohol or drugs. But you also could be addicted to porn. But I also wonder if there's an addiction to just like changing my state of being, where it's like, oh, this is.
I mean, I feel like humans have been doing that forever, just like trying to alter your state of consciousness. Even in addiction, it's like, what is addiction really? I mean, I think at an existential level, addiction is like fear of the void and fear of like, am I alone? I mean, but then when you bring it back into reality, we're sitting here like someone's addicted to porn. It's like it's trying to escape, trying to like. I truly think the root of all addiction is like awareness. I feel like it's impossible to be sitting there, like if you're really struggling with porn and you're like, you're a dude, you're jerking off or something, like to be completely in tune with the moment, in the present moment, almost like very meditative, and like still do that. Like I think the cure for a lot of these things is like observing and like wiping away all of that judgment. It's kind of like, I mean, I've struggled with binge eating in the past. Something that's really helped me is like just observing myself eat the food. No judgment. Eat it. How do you feel? Like feel it go down your throat. Just like every bite, really savor it. And when you really start observing, it's like, I used to be unconscious when I was just doing, like people just do these things unconsciously. And so I think what you're getting at with like maybe an addiction, whatever, but just like seeking out altered states of consciousness, I think everyone has that drive and it just manifests differently depending on, your upbringing, your environment, content you've consumed, childhood. How does that land?
I think you're onto something. I'm sort of just enjoying my protein bar.
I can keep riffing.
Well, I do want to get into your. That's a pretty good segue, actually, because I do want to get into your the binge eating phase of your life, and some altered state of consciousness stuff. But first, I want to take us back, pretty far.
Okay.
Before we do, turn this way a little bit.
Okay.
A little bit more.
How's this?
Perfect. Stay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Just here. Okay. Oh, this camera.
And that one.
Okay. This
Because
is
if we're
good
fully
angle,
facing each other, then when I clip it up later,
though. Yeah, it's
so I like to just keep it like facing each other, but also like sort of facing that camera, because when you create verticals, you can make that camera look like it's actually two cameras. But then if we're directly facing each other,
it's hard. Yeah.
this one is like sort of becomes the only useful one.
Got you.
For any podcasters who might be watching, or for yourself, if
Yeah.
you consider getting some cameras and doing some in-person interviews, which
Yes.
I really hope you do.
Potentially. Yeah, like it's so I think it's like the time commitment of just setting it up. I just haven't made the time. And I feel like right now it's easy to just do a podcast whenever if it's like with Riverside, whereas this, it feels like, okay, there's so much more intentionality. Like I try to be intentional, but like knowing that I was coming in person, I was thinking about it yesterday. I was thinking about it all morning, kind of amping myself up for it. It's just I think the guest shows up a lot differently.
How does it feel now that you've done 4 virtual interviews and now you're here doing an in-person one?
I'm much more comfortable like in this setting than I think I would have been prior. Like I think once you get into the headspace of like, oh, I'm creating content and I'm putting myself out there, it kind of takes away all of the, oh, I can just be myself. Like you know what it feels like to, set up a camera, have that on you and put it on the internet. And the initial like, oh, like there's a camera. Like it's definitely different here with the lights and both of these cameras and the whole like cool setup here. You got the board, it's a sick setup. Like I'm still like taking it in. I'm still like, I can feel myself slowly kind of unwinding and getting more comfortable. To answer your question, like, yeah, feels great.
Let's stick on the podcast for a second, actually, before we go back.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you start yours?
Oof, this is why did I start my podcast? I mean, I really enjoy talking to people. Like I'm just like genuinely interested in people. And for the past 3 years, or maybe the past like two and a half years, or maybe just over 2 years, it felt like I always had something to focus on. Like I'm building this, I'm working towards this, I'm doing this. Right now, I'm in a more transitional phase of my life, kind of in limbo, and I have been for, I'd say the past 3 months. And the podcast is a good way of making more friends and increasing. I've heard it described, I think Sean Purry from My First Million, like surface area of serendipity. Like when you just come into contact with more people and have more conversations, like cool shit can happen. Because this is going on, like you said, it's going on the internet. Like this is insane. That this is like holy fucking shit. Like we're having this conversation. It's gonna go on the internet for free. Like we're paying with our souls or whatever, our data, whatever.
Right,
but like it's out there. Anyone with an internet connection can go. No, thank you.
No, you're good.
Anyone with an internet connection can go watch this, consume this whenever they want. Like that is incredible. And just that's always there now. Anyone can then go discover me if they get interested. Like, oh, what was Nick doing back in 2024? Oh, he had this cool conversation. Oh, that person's really interesting. Cool way of connecting and just trying to get more social leverage as well online. Like if there's anything I've learned over the past 3 years of trying shit, it's I need social leverage online to do the things that I want to do. Maybe that's a limiting belief or something I'm telling myself, but that feels like a good use of time when I don't necessarily have one particular thing that I'm driving towards.
I do, not to go morbid, but I do have to say that one aspect that I didn't expect until I had started is that someone brought up the fact we were talking about how like my mom, she has not watched a single episode. And even for the anniversary episode, I had on some really good friends. It was the episode I was most proud of in the last year. I had so much fun recording it. It was just, it was a one of those like just moments where you're like, this is my life. Like, no, it's not. and I asked him, I told my family, I was like, you guys know I've been doing this for a year and I've never asked you to watch an episode. You guys should watch this one because it will really give you an idea of like when David feels comfortable in his own skin. And you guys have never seen that before. And I want you to be able to witness that. And my mom, within like 3 minutes of me sending the text to the family chat, was just like, I looked up the time. It's too long. I'll pass. But one of my friends, as we were having this conversation about like who when it comes to like 99% of my audience is strangers. I have no idea who they are. But when it comes to like the people where before you started releasing episodes, you're like, oh yeah, my mom would totally rot. She's like, well, you know, one perspective is that if God forbid you die before your mom, you know that she will treasure this podcast more than anything else on the planet. Like she will probably binge watch every episode. And so it's that's a whole nother side of like legacy, I guess, that is cool.
Yeah.
Because it's as long as the internet is up, it's there forever. Or if you want to be a psycho like me, I went onto Amazon and bought like a $60 hard drive, and so I have every single episode on a box. So even if the internet went down, like I could like set it up to ship that box to my mom. She's probably the only person who I'd care who'd want to have it, you know. And she could have that as just to do whatever she wants with.
That is incredible. I'm feeling that, dude.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get emotional. I don't know where that came from, but
dude, no, I hear you. I've had the same thoughts. When I started making content, I started this most recent iteration. I had phases in my teenage years and in college where I would try to start it up, but this most recent past like 10 months, I started just taking daily videos and uploading them on a second channel. Like, and they were just nothing. Like, I was thinking like, oh, maybe my future kids will watch these, or like maybe, you know, I can upload these into an AI or something. It's like some way of trying to grasp on to just something out there. Like, it's a way of just being like, hey, listen to me. I'm here. Like, it really feels like that. And I'd be walking around Austin saying, hey, this is what I'm doing right now. This is my day. This is what I'm doing. And this is what I'm working on. And I would throw it out there into the ether. And like, some people would watch and comment, and those comments would make my fucking day. The people that would sit there and like watch all that and have like an interesting comment, like, oh yeah, timestamp here. Like, what'd you mean by this? I'm like, holy shit. Like, wow. Like, wow, actually.
So social leverage is good. Legacy is good. Yes, when people comment, it's pretty cool, especially when it's positive, because there's a lot of negative ones out there too. Do you have any like singular hyper-focused goal that you have thought, if someone was to tune into a couple of these episodes, I would want the result to be?
I want them to learn something about themselves. Like, I think this life is just a journey of like self-discovery, and I think it can go just infinitely deep. And if someone can listen to a podcast and be like, huh, I've never asked myself that question, or like, wow, I teared up a little bit at that person's response, like, job well done, pat on the back for me. Like, I want someone to come away thinking, interesting. And if they don't watch any of my other content, that's fine. Like, I want them to like leave the podcast better than they came in.
Do you think, is that enough of a reason to keep you going on the days you don't want to?
No, I don't think it is, to be totally honest with you. And like, that was a really nice, grandiose vision, but like, what the fuck am I trying to do with this? I totally hear you. Like, the big vision, or I guess one of my life philosophies is like, having a plan for world domination, like just having that plan and knowing, oh, this is kind of out there, and then orienting yourself towards that. Like, it's like fuck it. I don't know if I'm ever gonna get there. Like, chances are, like, nobody's dominated the world. Maybe if you're Elon, he had this and he followed through. But like, just having that and kind of putting that out into the ether, things just happen. Like you approach life in every situation just differently. You show up a better person. You're more present with people. You find the good in things. You find the good in other people, and you focus on developing yourself as a person. And it really is like that alchemical process of like, wow, this is life. Like, I have this big vision and I'm oriented towards it, and I'm just going to do the thing I see sitting right in front of me. And I think that's going to move me towards this direction, but maybe that's going to open up an entirely different adventure. Who knows? It's the whole process of self-actualization, and I think like you just have to fuck around and find out.
Yeah,
truly.
Fuck around. Isn't that an acronym? F-A-F.
Yeah.
Fuck around, find out.
Yeah.
F-A-F-O.
Something. I don't know.
Did you tell me that? Did you just say that last week?
I'm not sure. This is not original.
I know it's not, but it's new to me. Someone said it to me for the first time in 2024. And I think they said it as an acronym, and he was.
FAFO.
I asked him. I was like, something. He wasn't a podcaster, but maybe a small business owner or something. I was like, why'd you start it? He's like, FAFO, and I was like, what? And he's like, FAFO, and I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You really need to come into contact with the world for anything to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're 4 episodes in, right?
Yeah.
Could I give you an unsolicited challenge?
Yes.
In your next 17 episodes, I want you to make a promise to yourself that no matter what happens, you'll get to episode 21.
I've heard this. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know this.
I think it's like 1% of podcasters.
Yeah, you'll be in the top echelon of podcasts if you get to 21. And as you move through these next 17 episodes, try to get your niche of a niche of a niche vision of what is this subtle thing that maybe we never even say it out loud on the podcast, but I want this result by the time I'm done podcasting. And that will be and it'll answer a couple questions. It'll answer who your target audience is, who your target guest is. All these other things will sort of come into play if you know that at episode 200, this is the thing that we are laser focused on. And I think you can find that in the next 17 episodes. I know you will. If you're thinking about it, if you're just willy-nilly invite, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but if you're just like, yeah, you come on, and be thinking about it as you're having the conversations, as you're conducting your interview today, just let your mind sort of wander about like, what are we doing here?
I mean, the first thing that's coming up for me when you say that is that there's something I've been trying to identify, like, what about the people I've had on do I really enjoy and what's the common thread? And I think one of the common threads is all 4 of the guys I've had on are like living authentically, or like at least I perceive them to be like living true to who they are, exploring their curiosities and not going down some path that people, because everyone when they're little has a path that's like, okay, yeah, go do this. And all 4 of them, it's not just have they broken away from that and they know like, oh, I can go find my own. It's, oh, I'm actually living it. And that's something I really admire because I feel like I'm in the process of doing the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What year and month did you graduate college?
May 2021.
Oh, interesting. So you might know this quote. I think it's not from Chris, but it was from did you catch the episode with the guy named George Mack, I want to say? Just that name, blonde guy, sort of nerdy. Anyways, the very short...
Oxford PhD?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
One of the things I remember from his episode that I've said a few times on here is the notion that most men die at 25 but aren't buried until they're 75.
Yeah.
And I did wonder, when you mentioned that you felt like you were sort of in not a funk. Did you say a void? What was the word you said specifically 10 minutes ago?
A fear of the void.
Yeah, maybe that's what you said. It made me wonder if you had just graduated like a couple months ago, because that's one of those milestones where it's like you graduate high school, you graduate college, you do have a girlfriend. Like, granted, you guys aren't married, but that is a significant box that not everyone can check off, me included. And so it almost made me wonder if, like, since you'd reached all those milestones and you're into adulthood, if you're having this realization that most people don't have until they're 30, 40, 50, 60 of just like, what is the next milestone? What should I be doing? Is it just this job that pays the bills and I go to this walk on Saturday and I go to the gym, and is this just what I'm supposed to do for the next 50 years now?
Dude, this is hitting so hard for me. I have a whole, not a whole theory, but like the phrase I've been using is burning through karma. I heard it. I might get shit on in the comments for this, but I'm a fan of this YouTube channel, actualize.org. Some people say it's a cult. I swear it's not a cult. Caveats done. But this whole video that I watched it only probably 6 weeks ago, maybe a little bit more recently, is this around this idea of when do you prioritize like those higher questions in life? Like, when do you go down a spiritual route? Like, when do you really start pursuing that, if ever? And in Austin, at least I've seen a lot of young people really go out of their way to like, okay, yeah, I'm going hard down the spiritual path. I want to become enlightened. I want to do all these things. And for a while, I think I started projecting my desire to be accepted by other people and was like, okay, I'm going to do these things too. And I need to act like them. And I'm bringing it back in. I want to act like them. I need to try to reach some kind of like state of consciousness or whatever. But after I saw this video, I kind of recontextualized the whole sort of paradigm I'm living in. I was like, maybe the way through this is to like lean into like, what do I truly desire? And like not numb out those emotions, those desires. Because when you numb out those things, it's like you're building on top of a shaky foundation. And so I'm thankful, like the path I've gone down, like I've fulfilled a lot. Like I've done the things that I said I wanted to do or attempted them, and that doesn't make me happy. I'm still left with, okay, what next? It's kind of like when people say, oh, like money won't make you happy. It's like, well, I'm going to go fucking double check. Like, you know what I mean? Like, right. Sure, we can intellectualize about this all day, every day, but until you have direct experience with these things, it's like knowing something versus understanding it. And so I think going, like when I graduated, I intellectually knew like, okay, I still know money's not going to make me happy. Do I still want to make a lot more fucking money? Yeah, I do.
Right. I
want to burn through that karma. And that's this line in this video that is like really resonated with me over the past 6-7 weeks. And it's just like, it keeps coming back. Like in conversations like these, like, oh, am I having these realizations now because, you know, I've ticked off these boxes? Like, yeah, this is the thing. I feel like that process of burning through karma, one, it changes who you are as a person. It reorients your direction and your outlook on life. It's also a process of coming into contact with the world. And then also you're still left at the end of the day, where am I going?
Yeah.
And that constant, like, where am I going? Where am I going? Where am I going? I think that is the process of like, you know, vertically developing, not just horizontally developing, like, okay, more resources, blah, blah, blah. It's like your strategies actually change as you burn through your karma. And I think like that's the path to self-actualization.
Are you happy?
Fuck yeah, dude. Yeah, I'm fucking happy. Like, life's great. Life is beautiful. Like, we're here, sitting right here. I'm happy. Yeah. What about you?
I'm so happy, dude. This week has been so much fun, and I think part of it is because, like I was telling you, unfortunately, a few people had to reschedule, and so it's been about 3.5 weeks since I've recorded. And last night they showed up, not physically, but like as guests. They were fucking awesome. And like, even though we haven't even gone into we're 41 minutes in and haven't even asked, like,
for real
started yet. Yeah. But even like today, like you showed up, like this is so much fun, you know? And like, of course I'm happy, you know, I have a great home, I have a great dog, you know, I have a job that gives me a little bit of extra enough money that I can do things like buy a fucking Roadcaster and then sit here with you and talk about whatever you want. And like you said, upload it to the internet where people can watch it. And like, yeah, man, like, and there are down days. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm just living this life that's all, you know, unicorns and sunshine. Right. Like I was just telling you on the drive here that 2 weeks ago, and I wasn't planning on telling anyone this because there is like a shame to it for some reason, but I downloaded Grindr because I was lonely and I really didn't know. I was not sure when I downloaded it, do I want this so I can hook up with someone tonight, or so that I can try to get a date out of it? And I did end up going the date route. And what's funny is I've told myself, if you want to explore like Tinder or Hinge or apps that are not as hookup-y, that's fine. Allow yourself to do that because that is a tool if you use it right. But I've told, dude, I told myself in 2021, sometime after the pandemic, but also a significantly-ish time ago, I hooked up with someone, and I don't know the science behind hookups or anything, but he came over, it was fine, but we went like, usually when I hook up with someone, I do like to ask them if we can like hang out a bit first. Even if it's just like in the, you know, in the kitchen or whatever, we share a drink, we talk for 30 minutes. And so homeboy comes over and he walks through the front door, immediately started kissing me. We were in the bedroom in like under 2 minutes. We fucked, he left so quick. And I have never felt worse about myself. I've been to funerals and felt better about myself than I did in that moment. And so whenever I get in those moments of loneliness, I go through this exercise of, okay, you can download this app, you can have someone over, and you can see if it makes you feel good. Or you can remember that moment when you felt like an absolute piece of trash, when you got like 30 seconds of pleasure when you actually came. Sorry if I'm getting too graphic. I'm just trying to keep it real for a few minutes. Yeah. Or, and then feel like shit. Dude, after he left, I drank myself to sleep like the next 10 days. That's how bad I felt. I just felt like the dirtiest person. And so I ended up not hooking up with anyone, I'm happy to say. But why'd I go down this rabbit hole? What was it that you just said that I brought this up?
Don't know. The void.
I guess I'll just
self-actualization.
Self-actualization. We're talking about dates, loneliness. I guess I'll just sort of let you respond however you want because you're in a different boat. You've been in a relationship for a little bit. I guess it goes back to what I was saying earlier about being addicted to changing how I feel. That was my instant thing. I thought, I am lonely. What do I want? Drugs? No. Alcohol? No. Porn? No. I want to touch someone. But then I remember like you get that. But then when it doesn't lead to anything, when it doesn't lead to a meaningful relationship, you're like, that's actually not what I wanted at all. I actually didn't want to have sex. I wanted a connection with another human being. And that's not, if you're just, if sex is transactional, for me, I'm only speaking for me, it's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah, it comes back to the observation. Like in that moment, I don't know what the thought process was, but you're telling me, you remembered how you were feeling. I think observing those thoughts are helpful because it's like, oh, what would I do if I loved myself right now? Like, I think it comes down to like self-love for real.
Here's a good question for you.
Sure.
On a scale of 1 to 10 in regards to self-love, how much do you accept yourself, have positive thoughts about yourself, have healed your wounds, and fully love who you are authentically? 1 being you don't love yourself at all, and 10 being that you love yourself authentically.
5.
Really?
5.
Why?
1, because immediately what came up for me was the voice of like, oh, there's always room for improvement. Like, I think even just that how quickly that voice came up inside me is like, okay, that's the former version of me that would just like take a stick and just like go, beat myself into submission. And don't get me wrong. Like, I love myself. Like, I have days where I'm feeling great. Like I said, though, like, I still have days where I'm like, fuck, damn, I don't like this part about myself. Like, why don't I like it? Why don't I like this? And what part of me am I not accepting right now? I struggle to give myself grace. And like, I really do with some of these things. And I mean, that's what I think this journey is all about, like learning to love yourself completely and fully, because it's not like, oh, you enter a state of self-love. Okay, I'm a fucking 10 out of 10. Like, yeah, I have my 10 out of 10 moments. I have my 1 out of 10 moments.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
It's like, where's that baseline? When you're just chilling, when you're not faking, putting on a show, when it's just you in front of the mirror, no one's here. It's some random Wednesday. You're getting up. You got up a little later than you wanted to because, you did something last night that you really shouldn't have. It's like, in those moments, like, do you give yourself grace? It's like, yeah, I do sometimes. Other times I'm like, all right, Nick, time to get your fucking shit together. Like, it's as simple as that. And I don't know what the balance is there. I think there's more room for grace once you burn through more karma, because it really gets back to like lifestyle, in my opinion. Like, when I think about what's limiting myself for like giving myself more grace, it'd really be like money. It's such a spiritual thing. It's like your connection to a lifestyle in which I think grace can come more naturally, depending on who you are. Like, maybe you grew up and it's like perfect. Like, I didn't have a crazy childhood. Like, nothing traumatic happened. Loving parents. Like, I had a quote unquote normal childhood, I would say. And like, that's why I'm a firm believer, like, even if something hasn't really fucked you up, burning through some of that karma could be a good way of like, moving up that ladder and allowing space for more self-love. Because it doesn't just come like that. And you can't lie to yourself either. Like, it's so easy. You can just and it's easy to fall down like little rabbit holes of self-deception for years even, and thinking, oh, you're this, I'm a really loving person. Like, I really love myself. It's like, let's get fucking real with you. Like, how about we get down and get real with Nick? Okay? Let's get fucking... Do you want to fucking rage right now? Go fucking rage. Go scream into a pillow. Go scream. Scream your fucking head off. Scream bloody fucking murder if that's what you want to do, and get it all out. Yeah. And it's like feeling all of that and allowing yourself to feel all of that, and the depth of that too. I've been amazed at the depth of emotion you can really embody when you let go. And I think it's only through feeling all of that then you can then emerge and be like, huh, all is well. Like, it's like, huh, okay. Yeah. It's like, we're afraid of those holes. We're really afraid of feeling those holes, but if you just feel them, it's like, well, it's just a hole, it's nothing there. It's like,
I know you said you didn't have a crazy childhood. I do want to cover a few things, though.
Sure.
You're the oldest of 3.
Yes.
Were you born in Texas? Are you a native Austin?
I was born in upstate New York.
Oh, cool.
From upstate New York.
Like, what city?
Oh, Corning, New York.
For some reason, I was going to say Albany, but I was like, there's a million cities in New York, probably.
Yeah, no, this is like, I mean, if anyone is listening to this and hears Corning and they're like, Corning, where? Corning is the name of this company that makes like a ton of different glass for like, I think they made a bunch of glass for iPhones and iPads. I think it was the one claim to fame that people say is like, oh, Thomas Edison used Corning glass to make the first light bulb. And so it's this big, it's a weird sort of situation where like right in Corning, you have the biggest Corning research facility in the world, like a Fortune 500 company. It's like just plopped right in the middle of nowhere. And there's literally a big neighborhood where all the engineers live, or most of them, right next to the big research facility. And then if you go a couple miles outside, you're in the sticks.
Did one of your parents work for them by chance?
Both of them did. My mom retired after we adopted my sister. But yeah, they were both engineers, and my dad for much longer than my mom.
I know you said you didn't have a crazy childhood. What was one of your, and you got this prompt about 5 hours ago, so you should be ready.
Okay.
What's one of your favorite memories from growing up?
Favorite memories from growing up? In Corning, probably... finding a group of friends that I felt accepted by, specifically in 8th and 9th grade, those were probably the most fun. Honestly, just like school's out, summer's in, I'm doing fuck all because like I don't know, like I don't have a job. My parents aren't sending me to summer camp. They were like, just go have a good time, going to play some basketball with the boys. We're gonna get some ice cream after that. It's just like play some video games, maybe some CODs, zombies. Loved fucking zombies all day, every day. Like just that sort of energy, like carefree, like nothing matters. But it's like it's different. It's almost like a very compassionate feeling I have for that period of my life because it wasn't like that playful state was coming from a place of maturity. We can get into what I think maturity is, but it's like I really didn't have any responsibility, which which made it a lot easier to like be in that state, which I mean, I'm really grateful for. Like nice family, wasn't struggling for money, like wasn't worried about food, good group of friends, wasn't worried about my physical safety, nice part of town, like everything was fine. But it's also like I also wasn't aware of like, okay, where's my life going? Like what are we doing here? I wasn't struggling with these questions. I didn't think about them. So it's like on one hand, it's kind of like how when a baby's born, you're just all like, oh, it's cute, but there's also no awareness. Like sometimes I hear people say, oh, when a baby's born, they're born enlightened. It's like, no, they fucking aren't. No, they fucking aren't. Like, what are you talking about? That makes no sense. Like, they don't know anything about anything. Come on. Like, do you know what I mean? So that was me in 8th grade. That was like baby Nick playing basketball with the boys, playing video games, eating ice cream, just thinking like, damn, life's awesome. It's like, how can you embody that after life shits on you?
Or not even as life shits on you, but as you were talking, it made me think like, when I was clapping, it was because I had the same thing. We had this distinct winter break and summer break. Winter break was like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, depending on your school. Summer break, 2 to 3 months. And not even to say that school was bad, because there were aspects of school I enjoyed, mostly the social aspects. But when you did have that break and it was like, let's fucking go, summer's here. For me, I went to like a week-long camp every June. Sports was a part of my childhood. We were huge into different card games, such as like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh. We were into, you're a little bit younger than me, but you could buy like laser tag sets where you had a vest that you would put on. And you had these guns. You didn't actually see the lasers, obviously. It was all sensors. But if you got hit, like your chest device would make this noise so everyone know you had 10 lives. So once you got shot 10 times, you were out. So we were having laser tag wars, dude, in the fucking streets of Folsom, California. and yeah, it's interesting because as you mentioned, like life shits on you. It's like, yeah, well, did life shit on you? Or now is it just the fact that now that we're adults, we do have responsibilities, right? So I have to pay rent for this home, and that means I have to work, and I do not get 2 months of PTO every year. So it's almost like our culture has physically set us up so that we can never take a summer break again. Unless you happen to be working a job where you make a fuck ton of money, where you literally could just be like some of my executives at my company. I made a guy a job offer last year for $430,000 a year. Homeboy can take off 2 months and not suffer too much, right? Yeah. But like, I do wonder if like part of our going back again to that, like dying at 75, not being buried until you're 85, is part of that because like as kids, we're so happy because you do get these breaks from life. Like every year I get 60 days to just fuck around. This is great. When was the last time as an adult I took 60 days to just fuck around?
Yeah, I should walk back the life shitting on you. I don't think life shits on you. Like, it literally is like, how could it be any other way? It's like a product of the choices you made over time. And I hear you on, like, yeah, when is the last time you took all that time off? And I think the answer to that is, what ends up happening, the way I conceptualize it is, your choices have consequences. And it's like, okay, that sounds like obvious or whatever. And sometimes people make choices because like, you know, the level of awareness isn't there in terms of like, this is going to set you up to like take, 60 days off and just not care about it at all. And I'm trying to think about where I'm going with this. It's kind of like, there's got to be a point where you cross some chasm where it's like you get that escape velocity and it's like, also, where are you going to? I don't know where I'm going with this, to be perfectly honest with you.
And I will also backpedal and say that life does shit on you as well. I get what you because you,
No,
you
but like
because like I've definitely. You didn't have to backpedal on that, is all I'm saying. I hope
no,
you didn't
I
think
was
that
backpedaling it on it for me because
Okay.
like I don't like that framing. Like, because really, that was when I said that, I was like, fuck, that's just like being a victim. It's like thinking the obstacle is out there. Like, really, it's like it's all inner game. Like, that's how I think about life. Like, it is all, how do I feel when I'm by myself? And if I can embody a certain state, like, life's just gonna come. Like, things, money comes. Like, relationships come. Good things can just come. And like, to get even more metaphysical, it's like, I think everything in our physical surrounding is just our will. Like, this is how we're living our life. Like, it's hard to put it into words, this kind of insight, but it's like, if we can get into non-duality, we can get into, I don't know where you want to take this.
I know where I can take this.
Yeah.
You had a baseball coach you didn't get along with.
Yeah. A couple.
Going back to your younger years.
A few. Yes.
Baseball, right?
Yes.
Who was the worst one? I may have heard a rumor that there's one in particular that you guys just butted heads, hated his guts.
I don't want to mention his name.
No, don't say his name.
Yeah.
What was it about that relationship that was rough? Was it just like you were a rebellious teen and he was an authority figure and you're like, fuck the system? Or
I mean, it's part of that. I feel like it's always part of it. It's at least part of that. I think. So that aside, I was very judgmental. Like I'm still judgmental to some degree. I think we all are. But like as a teenager, I was extremely judgmental, and I just didn't like the way he lived life. I didn't like what he represented to me. In my mind, as a teenager, I was like, I'm getting the fuck out of this town. And this guy happened to like grow up there as a child. He had a family there, and he had kids with like multiple women. And all these things. I was just really like, oh my God, like. In my mind back then, I was like, this is a disgusting way to live. I was so critical of that. And it wasn't like he was an angel either. Like, there's two sides here. Like, I also didn't show up in a way where I was like super accepting of like his authority. And I think I felt overlooked. And I think feeling overlooked is something that I started to feel pretty early on. Like, even I can remember being like 4 or 5 years old, feeling overlooked in preschool. And I think that's something that, I feel like I've worked through that. There's probably still lingering in parts that I'm not even aware of, like currently. But with this particular coach, that feeling was just exacerbated. Because I've always been like shorter on the baseball teams too and smaller. And that's one reason I started hitting the gym, just to compensate for like, oh wait, I just want to take up more space. And be noticed, like in sports or like any context. And I wanted to be physically so good that any coach, any person like couldn't say shit. That was my mindset back then as a teenager. Like, it's shifted. It's also like, you want to get girls, like everyone has insecurities. You're going through puberty, but this was a big kind of cornerstone thing for me where like, yeah, taking up physical space to compensate for that feeling of being overlooked. I don't know if that answered.
Do you remember? It did. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you remember why you said even before that though, as like a younger kid, you felt overlooked? What's the farthest back that you can remember feeling like that?
I remember being probably 4 years old in preschool and like not knowing necessarily how to socialize, or like thinking that I am like, wait, I can't relate to any of these kids. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Everyone seems like they have the perfect thing to say to make the other kid laugh. I'm like, none of this stuff is funny to me, but I guess I'll laugh anyways. I'm just like, I can remember I had a friend, his name's Chandler. Like, if Chandler's fucking watching this, like, I haven't talked to this kid in I don't know how many fucking years. Like, it's got to be at least over 10 years. But he and I would sit in a corner and like play this Game Boy that I would bring. And he was the only friend in preschool where I like kind of got along with. I kind of kept to myself because I felt like, oh, I won't be accepted, because I didn't know, what am I supposed to say? I didn't know like how to be myself almost. or even what it means to be yourself. Because even now when I'm saying that, it's like, what does it mean to be yourself? Like, if you're trying to be something, you're definitely not being your fucking self. Like, it's just, you can't put words to it. And I think little me saw everyone else having a good time. Maybe I showed up to preschool late one day and everyone was already there. And then I was just like, oh, fuck. Am I not doing this right? Like, it's crazy to think about that, but yeah, that's the first time I can remember.
I think that for better or for worse, that's not that uncommon.
Yeah.
I think and I'm sure there are people on the opposite side too, where they just had like maybe a charisma is the right word, where they could just step onto that school campus and maybe they didn't know who they were, so to speak, but they just were that extroverted. I have jokes to tell, stories to relay, but I definitely could relate hard, even to this day, man. I went to an event in February that is a pride event. It was an LGBTQ dinner, and I thought for sure. I let me preface this a little bit. Mm-hmm. One thing I've loved about Austin is I feel like I have found people that I can resonate with in so many different places and areas. At the gym, at the Sapien Center, like I was telling you about, on our Saturday morning walks, it's like I can throw a stone and hit someone that I can enjoy their company. I fucking love this town. I don't know what it is that Austin has that my hometown didn't, but like I didn't realize until I got here how out of place I felt at home. Which is probably part of the reason why I was like, I need to get out of here. Like, let's go. And I bring that up to say that I heard about this dinner and it was somewhat related to my day job. I asked my work if they would sponsor me going. They said, sure. And I thought this is going to be perfect because I already feel so like my social circle has never been stronger. Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to this LGBTQ dinner. Like, these are going to be even more my people. Like, this is going to be so much fun. Did I tell you about this dinner yet?
No.
Dude, I showed up. I've never felt so out of place in my life. And I think part of it was it's very ironic that in gay culture, we say a lot of our events are pride events because I felt like a lot of the people were just like very arrogant, and we were talking this morning about like, or that was your brother. I apologize.
You're good.
Me and your brother were talking about when you meet someone and there's something off, and you can't really put your finger on it, but you're just like, man, this Nick character. Man, do I want him out of my house? I'm totally kidding, brother. I'm loving every second of this. Every single person I met at that dinner just carried like this arrogance with them. And I was and going back to what you were saying about observing the food, at one point I went and just sat down at my table and I was just like looking at how everyone was interacting, and I was definitely like the most what I wore clothing wise, I stuck out like a sore thumb. All the dudes were in these like very nice tuxedos with like matching pocket squares, and all the women were in these like ball gowns, and it really just felt like it was almost, we were all just like sort of flexing like, oh, we're gay and rich, and I'm not rich, first of all. But like, I don't know, man. I don't even know, like it just going to bring it back full circle about what you were saying about feeling overseen in preschool. Here I am, a 36-year-old man, dude, and I still have this feeling of like, how can I be in a room full of people who I thought should be like my people, and I just want to leave. So bad. I just want to be back with my walking group. Is it Saturday morning yet? You know? Dude,
I'm totally with you. Like that, I really feel that. It's when there's just resistance to just like, okay, can we just like cut past all this fucking shit? Like, can we just like get to who we are, please? Like, yeah, I don't do well when I went to, springing up, we'll hit you back with a story here. I went to I didn't know it was like a tech meetup. Like I usually like, I've stopped going to like tech focused meetups ever since I've been like, I haven't disavowed tech, but like before I was like, okay, I'm a tech bro. I'm in this tech culture. Anyways, I show up and like the first question someone asked me is like, oh, what do you do? And that fucking question, I just said, dude, I was like, I said, breathe. I looked him square in the eyes. I said, breathe. I breathe. He's like, he just didn't know how to take me. Because I was like, I breathe. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, what do you mean? What do I do? He's like, what do you mean? Your job. I'm like, oh, thanks for asking a good question. And part of me is like, being a spiteful prick.
Brat.
Yeah, I was being a spiteful prick.
Brat.
Yeah. No, trust me. Yeah. Like I went into it like, well, I learned moments before I showed up like, oh wait, this is a tech thing. And so all of this stuff came up inside me. I was just like, oh, fuck this. I don't want to be here right now. And so when he asked me that question, I was like, yeah, this again, huh? Like, feels like I'm in San Francisco or one of these other cities, but there's something about the service level, just like, can we just get down to who we are? It's
Right.
like, we all have jobs. It's like, what are you trying to do though? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, those are the people I want to talk to. It's like, I don't care what you do. Like, what are you really trying to do? Let's talk about that. Because that's when people light up. And I like to be around people when they light up like that.
It's funny that you mentioned that because when I went to that event, I knew that question would probably come up, and so I was trying to think of it. I was like, what can I say to people that will get them to like raise an eyebrow or like just sort of be a punk like you were being, but also like at the same time to give them an answer to that question. So one that I probably used like 6 or 7 times that night was. So I'm just hesitating because I thought like a burp or a hiccup was going to come up, and it's just like lingering in my chest. I'm like, just get out of here already.
The worst feeling.
Yeah. So what I ended up saying to a couple people that night was, I said, I sit across from people and ask them questions that make them uncomfortable all day. And part of that is I'm also a recruiter. So when you're asking people like about their resumes and about how much they want to make, those are questions that like, even though this is a seasoned professional who's been interviewing for 20 years, like I think the compensation question, it makes everyone uncomfortable. No one likes answering it, which is weird, but whatever. And that question, it was funny because only one person asked me what I meant. It turned off. So people were just like, oh, like one lady, she's like, huh, I'm going to go check out the silent auction. And I'm like, she actually thinks like I'm not well.
Yeah.
She's like, this guy's like a fucking psycho. Like, is he a detective? Is he interrogating criminals? And what I thought was really interesting about those 7 people, which isn't a large data set, but I thought it is really interesting that only one person was like, wait, what do you do?
Yeah, like it only landed with one person. Like everyone else was like, "Oh, okay, I'm asking this question because it's a formality and we need to move on here." And like, yeah.
And I was expecting an answer like accountant, engineer, and then I said, I spend the bulk of my time asking questions that make people really uncomfortable, and then they're just like.
Dude, I think some of that is like it's so far outside of the frame of what people will respond when you ask them what do you do, because it sounds like, okay, if you're wearing fancy clothes, kind of flexing wealth, it's like they're talking about job. And it's like, wait, how can you make money? Does not compute. I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to ask a follow-up question because I'm also not that interested. And for fear of like, maybe it's going to break some kind of mental frame, or like, maybe I'm just wrapped up in what I'm going to say to the next person who is going to give me a quote unquote serious answer. Yeah, I mean, but the thing at the end of the day, it's like, that's all they know. And it's like, that's all, like, it's just, we're all doing our best type of thing. And like, okay, I just want the people that, it's like, we're all doing our best. And also, I'm not waiting for everyone to come around to some kind of vibe that I fuck with. I'm going to go find the people that I fuck with right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Was high school pretty run of the mill for you? Or anything worth? Oh, he's laughing. There's something there to be talking about.
There is. I think I mentioned. You asked me the most fun part of my life. Yeah, I mentioned again, 8th, 9th grade.
Yeah.
High school started off feeling like an absolute movie. To be totally honest, I had a crush on who I thought was the hottest girl in our grade. If she's watching this, that would be hilarious.
What's her first name?
Jillian.
Shout out Jillian. Hope you're well, lady.
Honestly, yeah. I hope you're well. Like, whatever. Crush on her all of like 9th grade, and then beginning of 10th grade. 9th grade was fine. It was just like hanging out with the boys.
Yeah.
And a mutual friend like pair us up. Like we went to this homecoming dance, and it was just kind of awkward, and we start texting more, and then she and I start dating. And it's like, I kind of like took that, I was like, am I the main character? Like this girl that I've had a crush on. In like 9th grade, you gotta think, I was just as tall as I am now, like 5'8", 5'9" on a good day. You know,
If I hung from a pull-up bar for a few hours before leaving the house.
That's what I'm really doing this evening. Not a podcast. Little bat cave.
Right.
I strap in. I'm just like,
We're gaining heights.
Yes. I was like probably 100 pounds, 110 pounds, braces, had my head kind of shaved. It was just a bad look. I was not doing well. I mean, I was well, but I just didn't know that I wasn't doing. I was like, I could improve this. But between 9th and 10th grade, had a bit of a glow up, grew out my hair a little bit, braces came off, started wearing my contacts more, started lifting weights. And so I was like, aha, people like me if I look a certain way. And that's something I've still been trying to unwind. So I'm with this girl. People are confused. They'd be like, wait, I heard you're dating so-and-so. And I'm like, yeah. They're like, good job. And I'm like, fuck you. Like, what do you mean good job? Like, isn't this like, what do you think of me? That was me at the time. I was like, I guess that was a compliment. I don't know. But then at the end of 10th grade, the whole thing ended with my best friend that I had since 2nd grade. He started dating her. And so lost the girlfriend, lost my best friend. The group of friends I had in 9th grade, they moved away, the 2 brothers that were keeping everything together. And so I was left with, okay, the one person I was friends with since, I was 7 or 8 years old, ultimate betrayal, this thing that I thought, this is like a movie. It's like, oh, wait, this actually wasn't real. And then on top of that, I internalized some message that people will like me for what I can offer them physically. And so it was like, I came out the other side being like, fuck this. I'm just getting the hell out of town. I'm going to a school where, I'm not going to know anyone. I just need a fresh start. And I had like 2 buddies that I hung out with the rest of high school. And even them, I love those guys, but I never really deeply resonated with them. And so it was pretty, I'm not gonna say it's rough. Like, it was all self-imposed. I could have made new friends, but I just didn't. I think that experience taught me a lot about just not caring what other people think. Cause I never really had a friend group or even like one friend after that I really was like, this is my best friend. I care what they think. And so I'm really grateful for that experience. I kind of took that and was like, okay, I'm going to do my own thing and people can say whatever about me. And that's just Nick Daigler over there. He's doing his thing. And I'm like, yeah, still doing that thing.
How old were you when you guys adopted your sister?
Oh, that's a good question. 7? I think I was 7 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. And I can tell the story of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We drove to New Jersey. I can't remember the airport, but I remember my parents explaining it to me like, oh, yeah, like, this is what adoption is. Like, it's the same thing. She's going to be a part of our family. Like, your brother, like, he came out of me, but this little girl, she came out of another woman, and like, she would have had a really bad upbringing otherwise. And like, this is a nice thing that we're doing, and mom can't get pregnant anymore. And our family isn't whole yet. And this girl is going to make our family whole. And yeah, that framing, looking back on it as a child, like, that was a really good way of framing it, because I was confused. I was like, wait, someone else is coming in. Like, how is she, like, isn't this weird? But my parents did a good job of like, no, this is totally normal. They even made a little book for her. You can make, I don't know if it was like Shutterfly or something, but like a little custom book, like little cartoons about like her story of like it's like, there's one line, she flew over on a big silver airplane and like she became part of our family. And we just started reading this to her before she could even like talk or understand. She was 6 months old. And so my parents framed it in that way. We made a big trip out of it. We went to New Jersey. I can remember the day we picked her up. We went to this arcade. We ate pizza. It was like this really fun time. Like, this is like a really fun thing that we're doing and celebrating our family becoming whole. And so it was really beautiful, honestly.
And she was what ethnicity is she?
She's Korean. She's from South Korea.
Do you know, did that as a kid? I'm trying to think of how to even frame my question. Like, having someone with different ethnicity in the family, did you ever feel like are people do you have like this weird thing where you felt like you needed to make people understand, or was most everyone just knew what adoption was and they're like, yeah, you adopted, whatever? not whatever, but like
Yeah.
you get like did having, because I've never experienced that, right? All of my siblings, we all came from the same parents, so you know, same mom, same dad, same race. So what I'm just wondering is like, did that throw any kind of different dynamic having someone? You said South Korean. Having someone of, regardless of what it is,
Yeah.
right? Someone with an ethnically different background, did that throw any curveballs into your family's life?
Not really, and I think
That's good. I'm glad that's the answer.
yeah, not really.
Yeah.
I also didn't like talk about it as much. Like it wasn't like, I mean, I was also more of I was pretty introverted growing up, so I didn't have like many friends. Like, oh hey guys, like we went to New Jersey, had some pizza, and picked up this little girl. She's not part of our family.
We
like,
picked up some pizza, picked up a baby.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like it's regular ass weekend. How about you? But so the cool thing about Corning, or like looking back on it, all the engineers from all over the world. So it was a pretty racially diverse like school system. Like I think there were 50 different countries in my elementary school. Like it was pretty insane. So I was seeing like kids of all colors from like growing up. It wasn't like this monoculture. Everybody's white. Like growing up, like, I mean, looking back, I'm grateful for it. I mean, I'm grateful. Like, how could it be any other way, really? Like,
Right.
I'm going to justify anything I say here. But no, it didn't really throw in any wrenches. I had a couple friends, or not friends really, like one acquaintance in particular. He had, I think, two or one adopted sibling as well. There was a girl who rode the bus that would always ride in one of the homes we lived in who was adopted. So it was like kind of, it just felt normal. Like, oh, this isn't anything out of the norm.
How was what's her name?
Julia.
How was the dynamics between you and Michael and Julia growing up?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, how much is it that she's adopted versus how much, like, she's a girl and she's 7 years younger than me. So I often think about, like, how much of a role do genetics play in that feeling of closeness? I feel close to her, but I feel closer to my brother. It's also because he and I share a lot of the same interests. You know what I mean?
Well, and he was even telling me you guys grew up in the same room.
Yeah, we
So
share.
you guys were sharing, like, how special was that probably growing up, just being able to hang out until you fell asleep every
he's
night?
my best friend. Like,
Right.
Yeah, to this day, like, my best friend, 100%, no doubt about it. And with her, like, I didn't feel like she was always a baby. And, like, it always felt like, you know, I was getting in, like, as soon as maybe she was at an age where I could have played with her, I was getting into the too cool for school phase. Like, because when I was like 12, 13, she would have been like, 5, 6. And she would come along to like all of the baseball games I was playing in, or like she would kind of tag along to all the hockey games Michael would play in. So she was always kind of there and kind of a background character in that sense. And I didn't really spend as much time with her as I wish I would have. As we grew older, I think once she hit middle school, we were able to relate more, just because we could be like, oh yeah, people suck sometimes, right? Like that, or like talk about her friends and whatnot. It's just been different. It's been different. I'm still trying to find a way to like relate with her.
Is she in Austin?
Yeah, she lives with my parents. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. I didn't know that
Yeah.
your parents lived here.
Mm-hmm.
Are the 5 of you still pretty close, being that you're all in the same city? And
Oh yeah, we're
Yeah,
pretty close.
that's cool.
Yeah, we're pretty close. Like our family, yeah, like we love each other.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
How'd you guys make it to Austin specifically?
That's a good question. So this was winding it back to probably fall of 2020. This is like full swing COVID. I had just came back I was living in Boston that summer for an internship. I was like, I don't want to do this at home. I'm going to go out on my own. Came back home, and that's when our family kind of got plotting. We were like, okay, I was graduating college in the spring. My brother, he had taken a semester off to do this like internship program in San Francisco. That was like, it was going to be his second year or second semester as a freshman at Wake Forest. But he was like, fuck this school thing. And at the time, I think he was, I think that was his first semester actually at Wake Forest, was that fall of 2020. I'm trying to get the timeline right. Sorry, give me a second.
Yeah, you're good. Take your time.
I don't know if maybe he was in school for another semester, because that fall of 2020 was his first semester as a sophomore at Wake Forest. So he was in school, I was in school, but we were thinking, like, what's next? Because he had this experience in San Francisco. I was like, I want to, like, maybe just drop out and do something else in my life here. And at the time, I think he was set on, I'm going to get an internship. I'm going to try to do some, like, a lot of, like, venture capital firms will have these fellowships for students. This is all driving to the point, I swear.
No, you're fine. Take your time. That's,
Okay.
that's the joy of podcasting, bro.
Perfect. Maybe that's me reminding myself
Yeah,
too.
you're good.
Michael was thinking, maybe I can get something for next summer and just see where this takes me. He ended up getting some engineering kind of fellowship, and it's just a fancy way of saying, like, these venture capitalist firms are like, okay, this kid looks kind of special. Let me see if he can work with this company that we invested in. He landed something in Austin for the summer, and they told him, like, hey, you can do this remotely. But Michael was set on doing it in Austin. He's like, even if we're not in the same room together, I'm coming to Austin. I want some adventure. And at the same time, I was graduating. I had reneged. I'd achieved what I wanted to achieve, had an offer from Facebook. I thought I was moving to Palo Alto, and I was like, okay, bada bing, bada boom, dream, that's my dream. But then I'm like, wait, my brother's going to Austin. I was like, And at the same time, I got into NFTs, crypto. I know. I had my NFT bro phase, but ended up working at OpenSea, the NFT marketplace, and I could work remotely. I was like, go chill with Michael this summer. I got fuck all the beat. I don't know. I can be anywhere. I was like, this is pretty cool. I don't have to be in an office in Palo Alto feeling like, oh, I did this thing and now and look down on the rest. I had this, like, superiority complex about working in tech and, like, going to work in big tech. And then I just took a hard look. I was like, I don't really fuck with any of the people I'm meeting. Like, I don't resonate deeply with any of these people, and none of them seem real. So, like, okay, we're going to Austin. The people there seem real. I think I saw Danny Miranda's podcast, and I was like, seems like a cool dude. Like, I visited once, and I was like, all right, let's give this a shot. I came down. Michael was interning here. We stayed in a dorm, actually, over on UT's campus. Like, it's the one right above the Target, if anyone's familiar. So he and I were staying there for a few weeks, and my parents had planned, as we were planning our trip, they're like, you know what? Yeah, maybe the world's a big place. We've been in upstate New York they both grew up there. My mom grew up in Rochester. My dad grew up in Saratoga. They went to a state school in New York. They raised a family there. And I think it was this transitional period for me and for Michael. My parents were like, let's just fucking send this. Like, pick up, just move the whole family down. Why not? My dad retired a few years early. He's like, there's just more to life. And I have to really give my parents credit for being so open-minded. Like, my mom especially I think that's where I have developed. That was the seed for me, my open-minded. She's open to anything. Like, at least hearing it and considering it. And sometimes it makes sense. She's like, yeah, let's come to Austin. And that's the story of us slowly negotiating from COVID and the whole family's here.
That says so much about you and your brother's relationship, that you got what you thought was a dream job.
Oh, yeah.
And you gave it up to
Yeah.
be physically in the same city as him.
Dude,
Granted, the fact that you weren't resonating with anyone also plays a huge part into it. If you were just, like, clicking with all these people, I'm sure that, who knows, maybe you would have gone to Palo Alto and maybe you would have been there a year and then been like, I miss my brother, and quit and gone to Austin. That we'll never know. But that's awesome that your family's that tight knit. Me and my mom are pretty close. I have a sister in New York, a brother in Oregon, a sister in Southern California, and a sister in Northern California. And I would really love it if my mom moved out to Austin, because I have a feeling I'm going to stick around here for a while. I am convinced at this point that even if I don't stay in Austin for life, I will probably never go back to California. The only reason I would is if my mom turned like 85 or 90, health took a turn for the worse, physically couldn't care for her, I would go back to town in a heartbeat. After she raised me and everything she did for me, I feel like I owe her that at a minimum. But, like, if she was in Austin and I could take care of her here, that'd be pretty sick. But she is sort of different from your parents, and she wouldn't mind me saying that she would be nodding in agreement with me if she was sitting in the room right now, where she her home is very comforting to her, to a point where she would rather stay in her home, even though none of her kids are in the area, because that is just what she knows. She knows where her job is. She has her garden. She has her rituals. She has her hobbies. And she's so driven by the life that she has made for herself now that she's divorced, kids have all moved out, and they're doing their own thing. And she's in this phase of life where it's just too much of a comfort to her. And I've even tried to tell her, like, why can't you buy a house with a garden in Austin? And for her, it's like, it's like, what wouldn't bite your tongue, son? You know, that was tragedy when you just sell my house. You know, wild. So it's a work in progress.
I see. It sounds like, are you still like actively trying to negotiate? And
I think
get her
what I
down
need
here?
to do is take much smaller bites and probably buy her a plane ticket to just come out for like a couple days and like ease her into it.
That could be cool. And just like, I think direct experience with just like, oh, what's Austin like? Has she ever been here? Maybe just downtown.
She's having a hard time even considering visiting me. That's how like stubborn, I guess you could say. She just doesn't travel. She has no desire to. She makes it a requirement that I go home at least 3 times a year. Whatever, Mom. Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you guys made it to Austin in 2020. You had graduated already. 2021.
Yeah.
You had graduated already. You would have been 22 at the time.
Yes.
What would you say has been the biggest difference between 22-year-old Nick and 25-year-old Nick?
That's a good question.
Could I ask you, we can take this out if you want, but being that we're in Austin, and let me just tell you, at least minimum 20 of my prior guests have talked about this. When was your first plant ceremony? Can we talk about that?
Oh, yeah.
How old were you?
Yeah, I was 22 when
were
I moved
22.
to Austin. Yeah. It was after I was at OpenSea and working there. I worked there probably 6 weeks, maybe 7, maybe 2 months. I don't know. Like the whole timeline for me, like this is a part of my story that I like block out and have not. I've had occasions where I really think through everything and what happened, but that's where, yeah, I had a friend pay me a bunch of money to leave my job. The whole thing went down. Anyways, I was in a bad spot. I was jobless. I had a friend who kind of went off the deep end. And I was broke as well. I'd like gambled away all my money on, like I say, like shit coins. It was a shit coin, like entire net worth into like one little meme coin. And I just wrote it to zero. I mean, we can get into the psychology of that. I have a whole theory about like if you make money in a way that doesn't align with like who you are, you just can't hold on to it. Like everyone, I think it's a self-worth thing. But at the time, my self-worth was like pretty low, and had a lot going on mentally. And I had a friend in town, and his girlfriend, I guess, was a facilitator for these things. And he was like, "Hey, I'm in town. Do you want to go do these mushrooms?" I was like, "Sure. Sounds good. Let's go do these plants." And I had no expectations at the time. I was like, I just need a change of scenery. I need something. Like I can remember that morning sitting nude in my gaming chair watching like crypto charts. And I was just like, I'm not doing this today. Let's just go touch some fucking grass today. Like this sounds like a good time. In this first ceremony, like it was over in Zilker. If I could go back in time, I would have done this completely differently. I wouldn't have done it out in public. I wouldn't have. I think it was like misdosed too, because like the chocolate started melting, and so it was hard to tell like what was where, and it was like, how much chocolate is this? Like I know the whole like ball of chocolate was this bar that was this much, but it was just like it's just weird. So I don't really know how much I took. It was, I think, a medium dose. That's what I've kind of internalized and kind of come to the realization of. And a lot of that first experience was me like finally just taking a deep breath and being like that's when I think of like what that represented for me was like a deep breath after years of just like holding my breath, of just being like, on to the next thing. Okay, how can I get validation? Okay, more prestige, more prestige. How can I, if I talk to this person, I can get, they know this person. And just like, it's this going from a frenzied state of like, okay, go, 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 go. Validation, validation, validation. You can't be overlooked, to like, you are it. Like, not, I've had other moments where I'm like, okay, wow, I really am it. But this was the first time I was like, maybe I am okay. And a lot of that was me just dealing with stories I told myself in college and reflecting on my whole college experience and the way I acted towards myself, towards other people. And it was less about like, you know, deriving some mystical insight or some like, I'm like, oh, it's metaphysical truth. That I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Like, it was none of that. It was just like, I'm really fucking sad right now. I was just like crying my eyes out in Zilker Park. It went from like, is it happening? And then I looked at the trees and I'm like, it's happening. I don't get visuals, but just like everything had a little bit more color to it. It feels like the meter on everything just like kind of, you just start turning the dial. Everything kind of gets cranked up and I'm like, wow. Just wow. And it was interesting because in that moment, I remember reflecting on like an hour ago, I was sitting naked in my gaming chair watching crypto charts. And I'm just like, damn, I'm so silly. Like I've been doing these silly things that don't bring me happiness. And I left that thinking, I left that not really knowing what to make of it. Like truly, I was just like, that was an interesting experience. Yet at the same time, this just feels like a distraction. Like it feels like there's nothing here. It feels like, I think it was also my relationship with the guy and his girlfriend. This is my first time meeting them. So it was a little weird. Like I had met this guy on the internet through like a Discord or Twitter maybe. I can't remember. A mutual friend connected us actually because he wanted to recruit me for his startup and I was like looking for a job at the time. And the conversation just kept going and they moved on to other things and we met up and we did this. So I think part of me not knowing what to make of the situation was just not knowing how to read him and his girlfriend. But that part of me, I kind of like closed that chapter for a while and didn't really open it again until a year later when I started experimenting with other sorts of things. I'm happy to go down any
going.
sort of thread that, yeah. I mean, and that's when I found Nifty Island. I met, I think probably through Twitter. I met the dude, I think his name's Charles. Shout out to Charles if you're watching this. Like, I left there and I think maybe there was bad blood. There's nothing there. If anyone's watching this, I just like to clear up that karma. But again, it was like, it was still in the crypto space. I was getting sucked. I could feel myself getting sucked up into like this, like really these. It's very idealistic. And I saw everyone working at this company who was like very young. And I love working around young people, especially like people who can code and build things because you're dumb enough to keep going and you're strong enough to, there's that phrase. It's like, you're dumb enough to try, strong enough to keep going. You have that just like brute force energy and like really feeling like you can change the world. And I felt that. And at the time, like that's what I was craving because that's all I had known up until that point. Like go out, like, and you can write code and you can change the world with what you're doing here. And that's what I felt. And I felt like a sense of community as well. And it wasn't until January of 2022 when I reflected, I was like, where's my life going? Like, ever since I've kind of started messing around with crypto and like having these like really idealistic visions for the future and the world and these things I want to do, it's like my life materially has degenerated. I went from, you know, I was like a year ago, like January of 2021, I'm like, I'm going to Palo Alto, I'll be making fucking 200, 300K first year. Like I'm going to be just balling out, having like what, like I'm going from that. And obviously there's so many things wrong with that. And I had my reasons for not pursuing that to this path where I'm like, At the time I was like staying with my parents. I had an apartment, but I was just like, I could not be alone. I did not want to be alone. I was terrified of being alone. And I just wanted to be around my family. And everything felt so meaningless. Like truly, I was like, where's this job going? Like the skills I'm building here, just like I'm working crazy hours to try to like please these people, and just everything felt off. And that's why I tell people, I was like, I need a big boy job. Again, that's how I describe it. A big boy job meaning, okay, let's get back to some familiar ground with the path that you'd conceptualize for yourself. Like, let's go back, let's take another look at big tech. Is big tech conducive to the things you do want to do? It's like, well, fuck yeah, it is right now because I'm broke. Like, well, it's like, yeah, it's just like, I want to do, I have all this ambition, but I'm so wrapped up in the day to day. I'm like, let's just get out of this. And that comes back to the burning through karma thing. It's like, you mentioned like not being able to take time off or like taking time off. It's like, I kind of realized like, if I want to do the things I want to do, I need time. I really need time to myself, and I need a lifestyle that affords like this exploration and being creative, and that isn't soul sucking, and something that I can kind of resonate with, and that's going to sustain these other things I want to do for now. Like, and it's just getting really practical with yourself and having a lot of compassion in that moment, because I had not been compassionate with myself. And so it was like, okay, let's right the ship. The ship is in the water. We are capsized right now. We need to somehow like rejigger this whole thing and flip it back up. And like, then let's just steer the ship towards something. And that's right where I was like, okay, how can I kind of parlay my experiences into something that an employer is going to be like, dude, you've been hopping around. Like, what's your story here? Ended up getting my current role, medium-sized tech company. I work remotely. And so this has allowed me to, get my feet underneath me. And, I resonate a bit with my job. It's enjoyable. There's some creativity. Is it the end all be all? No, I don't live to work. I live to, self-actualize and pursue what I want to pursue. And that's what this has allowed me to do.
During that phase in 2022,
Yeah.
being that Michael and you have been so close, did he ever say anything? Did he ever notice, and maybe not the loneliness or a specific word, but was he ever like, dude, you seem like you've been in a funk for a while? Did he pick up on it? Or did you even just verbalize it to him? Was he someone you would go to try to work through?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So he did know.
He and I were both in funks. He and I have had our own struggles, and we've shared some of those things with each other. And like, there are times when he'd just be like, dude, like, you got to get your shit together. And just like totally, like truly, like just, let's just get it together. Like, it's okay. You're okay. It's okay. Let's right the ship and keep on moving. But 2022, we were building a bunch of different products. And as the year kind of came to a close, we were like, okay, getting a little frantic. We'd been working for a while. Nothing was really working. We wanted to make some money, and we tried to build a couple of different mobile apps to like kind of get a flash in the pan of like, hey, like, can this kind of go viral real quick? Can we make like 50K, 100K off this? And those attempts, like, yeah, didn't yield anything. And if anything, it did reaffirm to me that I need to be working on something that like aligns with who I believe I am and with a vision that I have for the future. So that kicked off 2023. I'm down to whatever string you want to pull on. Like, if I can keep going, like, whatever works for you.
There's a part of me that feels like you should just keep going up until today, and thus you
Yeah,
feel
sure.
like that. Yeah,
Totally. I'd love to. Beginning in 2023 was finishing off everything with the group we had with Hive. So we talked to Mitch, and we were like, hey, Mitch, like, he was the guy we worked on this Hive thing with. They're like, hey, we're just going to part ways now. Michael and I are going to do our own thing. Like, no hard feelings. Like, I love you, man. I know you've got a great opportunity. He had a good opportunity come through for work. So it was like, it was a good end of an era, closing a chapter, but fresh starts for everybody. And this was when Michael and I started playing with AI a lot. Like, over Christmas break, we were in upstate New York, ChatGPT. We were like, what the fuck? Like, so that would have been December 2022. We were like, this is going to change like everything.
Yeah.
And so Michael and I were like, wait, can we catch this wave? Could we get a flash in the pan here? It wasn't mobile apps, but like, can we do something with AI? We spun up this thing called Friday Lunch. It was like this AI / product consulting agency. We had one client. We I think looking back on it, we just shirked this one woman for like more money than she should have paid for just like a simple little chat bot. But at the time it was like, whoa, you can do that? Like,
Right.
all of that led to us spinning our wheels more and more on different sorts of products. Like, oh, could we do an OnlyFans like chat bot? Could we get like OnlyFans girls to make a Telegram bot? There was something that popped off at the time that I remember like it went like mega viral. I can't remember what her name was, but she made, I think, some tens of thousands of dollars in like a week or something. It was crazy. It was like, is this going to be a trend? Can we hop on this? And then around May, June, Michael and I looked at each other and we were like, bro, something's got to change. Like, we need to like figure out what the common thread is here that we keep learning. And what that was social leverage. Like, no one cares about what you're building unless you have distribution. And so distribution, leverage, these are the things I've been internalizing and like now working towards, and the podcast is part of that. Like, yes, I love talking to people. It's also a tool for me to like grow my network, grow my influence online. And I feel like not enough people really talk about that, but like that's the God's honest fucking truth. Like, we all have like, I have a mission that I have big dreams and big things that I want to do. And in order to convince people to do that, like, I need to give them a reason. So I'm trying to give people a reason to listen to me.
I have my follow-up question. Mm-hmm. I also have to pee.
Good. Okay.
Do you need to go too?
No, I've been wanting to like sip this whole glass of water for the last like.
You take some sips. I'm gonna pee. We'll be right back.
Okay.
That is one thing I've thought about, that I did not start the podcast as a alternative to my day job, but we did just bring in. So there's some uncertainty with my work right now. Even though our boss has told us probably 3 times now, none of you are going to get fired. No one else is going to get hacked. And it's almost like the extra reassurance is making you more uncomfortable. It'd be like if this whole podcast, I'd be like, Nick, you're very safe in my home. And you'd be like, what? Yeah. Stop telling me that. Like, why are you? Stop giving me.
I feel so unsafe right now. I feel so unsafe.
And so every time, he just did it again this last Monday where he started off the meeting. He's like, I want everyone just to take a deep breath and know that everything is fine. And I'm like, please stop saying that.
As soon as someone tells me to take a deep breath, my breaths become shallower than ever. I'm just like, what? No.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I was thinking about is that if my, you know, I don't want to brag. I'm a good employee. I'm good at what I do. I do think I'm really good at what I do. And I don't think that if they did continue to let go of people, I don't think I'm on the bottom of the list. I think I'm probably safe. But I was thinking about it the other day, that being 70 episodes in, having a relatively strong platform, even though it's not monetized yet, if I was fired today, I'm not at square one. I have a very good foundation of like, honestly, I might even call like you and your brother and be like, all right, I know you guys aren't like professional podcasters or anything, but you guys are super smart. You've already tried to do a few of your own ventures. I have this platform. What could I do with this? I now have all the time in the world. I have that break I was complaining to you about, you know?
Yeah.
What do I do? And so I just bring that to say that, to give your platform some reasons for people to go over there. I really enjoyed your 24 predictions for 2024 and that why aren't we thinking, we have the internet. Any of us right now can put anything on it. And why aren't we leveraging this more? Is it a lack of interest, lack of time? We didn't think, because it is a time suck. This takes up a lot of my time, but I'm also not doing it for social leverage. That's not my time. I'm doing it because I get to sit here with you and have a really great fucking conversation. And it can be a tool if I need it to be that tool later.
Gotcha. So the question is, why don't you think more people are doing this?
I think so. Wasn't that one of your predictions? Wasn't that one of the 24 predictions? Why are we not leveraging? Why are we not?
I think more people are starting to do so. Like, I think more people than ever are. If you're going to look it up, let me know. Feel free to interrupt. But I think I see a lot more people starting newsletters. And I think it's starting from the top. Like, people that aren't as concerned with, like, you're not working minimum wage job. You're working in tech or something. And you're questioning, like, oh, wait, You know, I'm not at that Ivy League school anymore. I'm not running track for Dartmouth. Like, where do I find meaning in life now? Oh, I can start a newsletter. Oh, I can start making TikToks. Oh, I can start doing YouTube. I think it starts that way for a lot of people. Like, I just need something else, some extra juice to life. And then once you start creating content, for me, it's like completely flipped how I consume. I'm just like, oh, I see what they're doing here. That's pretty cool. I'm going to steal this. Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to make a note about this. Oh, this made me think about this other idea. And it really turns into like a way of life. Like, honestly, it's just like living creatively. That's my most favorite part about it. Because like even some of the friends I've made at like Danny Miranda's run group, like we'll say to each other, damn, like we're speaking in tweets. Like I'm going to write that one down real quick. Like, you know what I mean? It's the highest of compliments. That man speaks in tweets. Like, but I think it's a lack of, I don't know, everyone's doing their best. Everyone's doing their best. And I think sometimes it's easy to not appreciate the gift that this really is. It's like, holy fuck, like, I could just put this out there and anyone with an internet connection could, in theory, see this. And the cool part is, like, if one person can see it, that means a billion people can see it. Like,
right.
That's so cool. Like, and it's just, like, that need to feel, like, I think creatives just want to feel understood. Honestly, like I have this longing to feel understood by other people. And I think that's part of why I create content as well and why I really enjoy it, because it helps me feel like, wow, like I can put this out there. And even though they're not with me, I don't know them, part of me is now with them. I think that's really cool.
What do you want me to understand about you that would make you feel understood?
What do I want you to understand about me that would make me feel understood? That I have an insane vision for my life and am doing everything in my power, like by definition, everything in my power at every moment to further that mission and vision. Yeah, that's what I want you to know.
That's pretty simple.
It is. It is. But then it's like the layers to that. It's so interesting how when I talk to people, I'm reminded constantly of how many different like facets there are to life. It's so interesting. It's like, one's like, holy cow, we're here right now talking to each other. And then at the same time, it's like, there's like things are coming up inside me as you're speaking that otherwise wouldn't have come up in this moment. And to me, that's really beautiful. I'm like, something in this interaction is revealing something about reality. And that's another thing I really like about talking to people. It's just another way of trying to encircle something. I don't know what the fuck we're encircling, but it feels good to try to encircle it with another person. Because I think it's like in an attempt to encircle whatever, like absolute truth or whatever we're talking about that, you know, rests upon everything that's ultimately absolute truth at the bottom. It's like, it's some sort of like shared understanding. Like, yeah, this is what we're doing here.
Do you feel better now that I understand that you're laser focused on taking your life a certain direction?
It's not like laser focused. Maybe that was the wrong. I probably didn't word it. I didn't word it the way I wanted to. If that's the impression it's leaving, it's like.
Did you want me to understand that you're not wasting time, that your life is going somewhere?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because I think often.
Do you feel like people assume that you're wasting your time and that Nick Daigler is just sort of fucking around? And do you think that's the impression you give people?
What it is, I think I know what it is. I take on the burdens of a lot of my loved ones and creating a better life for all of them. And I feel that so deeply sometimes, like so deeply. And there's a lot of guilt and shame wrapped up in like not being that person that can enact change yet. And it's like, where does that come from? Taking on the burdens of loved ones. Because it's like, they're happy. They're living a nice life. Like, am I just projecting a ton of judgment on them? And it's like projecting judgment on them. Oh, I'm just judging myself. Like, it's like this keeps coming back to like, what does Nick want to do? That's what I keep like, let's just do what Nick likes to do. That's what I try to remind myself of.
What's this change you want to enact that you feel like you don't have the power to change yet?
I mean, my brother and I talk about buying a big compound for the family, starting a little farm. We got our wives. My sister's got her husband. We all move into the same piece of property out in the Netherlands or something. Nice little idyllic scene out in the countryside and one big happy family. It's like, realistically, like, that's not how it's going to go down. like even saying that, I don't know if I even want that. But that's just something I've talked about. And I think it's just comes from this place of feeling like I owe the world something, or it's like a way of apologizing for something that I don't even know what I did wrong.
Do you think it's realistically not going to happen because you want to allow yourself to believe that it will happen? Why couldn't that happen?
Oh, it definitely. I think it definitely.
Could.
I definitely think it
if
could
you
happen.
guys got married, if you guys, assuming you all want to get married, all right? Do you
Yeah.
want to get married?
Yes.
All right, and then let's assume Michael
Yes.
and Julia.
Yes.
Julia, I'm just going to assume for a second, even though I shouldn't assume.
Yeah.
So you guys have 6 people
Yeah.
who are all able-bodied,
Yeah.
that are making incomes. Your
Yeah.
parents are, let's assume they're still making an income.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like that big of a goal.
It doesn't. It's more of like, it's not even a goal at this point. It used to be the goal for me. That it kind of symbolizes this state of financial freedom that does allow for more grace to enter my life. Because right now, I feel like part of me feels apologetic to my parents. Part of me feels apologetic to people in my life. Like, I need to be, quote unquote, successful, even though I don't even know what that means. Like, I'm in a period right now where I'm kind of unwinding some of these narratives I've been telling myself. And that's why coming back to the question about, like, do you love yourself? Like, something to that effect, like 1 out of 10, I said 5. Like, that 5 is because, like, there is part of these internal narratives they still come up and they still beat me down on occasion. Or it's like me beating myself down. And I lost where I was going on that.
If I hacked your bank account right now and took away every dollar to your name, do you feel like you would have something to offer the world when you walk out that front door?
Oh, yeah. Yes. 100%. Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, dude, 100%. And that's something that has taken me the last couple of years to kind of come to, really. And I need to... I'm grateful. I think I credit that to, like, my concept of money it was kind of broken. Like, when I got that offer from Facebook, like, the signing bonus was like $70K.
Jesus.
As a new grad. And I was like, well, this is interesting. Like,
that's one word for it.
I mean, I was like, I don't feel any different. I'm actually some part of me is deeply sad. And I don't know why. And then made a bunch of money trading NFTs that I ended up losing. But it's like, you see the big number and you're just like, wherever I go, there I am. Like this, it's the title of some book. It's funny because I think about that a lot. It's the title of some book my mom bought me when I was like 14. Never fucking read it, but I'm realizing it's so interesting how you can have a book that you never read and you still learn from.
Well, it's if you take a minute to pause, it's an interesting phrase because so many people think they're like, okay, my life is shit. I need a new partner. I need a new job. I need a new geography. And it's like, well, real quick, wait 1 second. Just pause for a minute before you quit the job, break up with this partner, sell your house and move to Austin.
Dude,
hang on 1 second and just ask, like, so you are still going to be going into that relationship.
Yeah.
Nick is also going to be going into that job. Nick is going to be going into that new city. And Nick is going to go into that new home. So when Nick arrives,
Nick's there.
Nick is there.
Yeah.
Well, the funk that you think you're in, going to be solved.
Yeah.
And that's why I love that phrase so much.
And it's hilarious. I think my dad or my brother said another way of putting it is like, if it stinks everywhere you go, check your fucking shoes. Right. Like if everything smells like shit, like, you should just check yourself first. Yeah.
we should probably start wrapping this up
Okay.
because I want to give you some breathing room between
Sure.
podcasts.
Sure.
Is there anything else today that you really wanted to talk about?
What is your do you have a vision you're working towards with this podcast?
I was hoping you weren't going to ask me that. Because for some reason, man, I'm like really really emotional today, and I don't know why. The only thing I could maybe attribute it to is lack of sleep, because like I was telling you, I didn't make it to bed until 1:30. So I don't know if maybe I just get emotional when I sleep or something, or when I don't get sleep. But yes, no, I have a very specific vision for this. Is that my goal is that one day I will get an email from someone, and they're going to say something to the effect that, let me take a swig of water.
You're good.
It's going to say something to the effect of, I tuned into your podcast and I listened to Nick Daigler's episode, and I really liked, the light that he brought and his mindset. And I was at a really dark place when I listened to his episode. And I ended up listening to another episode and another episode. And honestly, I was at a place where I was considering taking my own life. And every guest that you brought onto the show brought a little bit of light into my life that caused me to think, let's wait a day, a week. And that was a turning point for me. And now I'm married, and now I provide value to my family, and now I have my own podcast. And I just wanted to say thank you. And by the time this podcast ends, if it ends, I'm going to print every single one of those emails, and they're going to be sitting right here. There's going to be a stack of them for us to read.
That's beautiful. Truly.
Yeah. So thank you for being a part of this, and thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Because I think that your story could definitely have that effect on someone. And I definitely have for me, I don't, and this is for all podcasters out there, and part of the reason I think you should get laser focused on what your mission is because once you get in on the mission, it makes it a lot easier to not care about the numbers. Because I think that your episode is meant for one person. So whether the podcast gets 10 downloads or 10,000, in a way it doesn't really matter, because I'm just waiting for that one person to send me that one email. But the reason I ask everyone in every episode to please go leave us a 5-star review on Spotify, to please subscribe to the YouTube channel, to please leave a written review on Apple Podcast for what you liked about the episode, is because we don't know who that person is. We don't know what state they're in, not state of mind, but like Idaho, California, we don't know where they live. We don't know if it's a friend of a friend of a friend, because what happens with this podcast in the early stages is most of the listeners are probably people that know me, people that know you, and then the few people that we've reached organically. So I don't know if the person that needs to hear your episode is a 12-year-old boy in Kentucky. And so we need you guys to leave those reviews, because it will create a ripple effect so that this episode can reach that boy in Kentucky. And so I'm not asking you guys to review the show because I'm narcissistic or egotistical, or because I want it all about me and I want to monetize this thing so I can become a millionaire. I could care less about that. I do want financial freedom. I do think it would be cool that if my mom had these crazy health bills when she's 90 years old, if I could just be like, yeah, I'll just pay for that. That would be nice. But really, I want these reviews because we don't know who we need to reach.
I love that. Dude, I love you, bro.
I love you too. All right. We have a closing tradition on this podcast. I sort of cheated already because I asked you one, but I'm going to ask you another.
Okay.
Where I take questions that I really like from other podcasts and I ask them of my guests just because I want to see how they answer.
Okay.
And I think for you is, I think this one would be good, actually. This one's perfect for you.
Okay.
What is something you'd like to pay more attention to, and why? This one's really, so if you go to Nick's channel while he's thinking of his answer, he has he's not a ton of videos, but you have a small group of videos. It's building. One of my favorite ones that I watched in preparation for today was your 24 predictions for 2024. Nick even, I think, opens the video by saying he's not an economist. He's not making claim. He's taking what he knows from other podcasts, people he's talked to. But I loved your predictions. You had some really interesting ones in there. So I sort of thought that question was good for you, because I do feel like you have things where you're like, I know about AI, but I haven't given it any attention, and I should. So for you, I'm curious, is there anything going on in the world right now where you're like, I know this thing exists and I should be paying attention, but I'm not?
I know this thing exists.
What's new? What's trending? What have you heard?
I know, and that's what I'm trying to think about, because I usually would have something like that. I've stopped listening to podcasts over the past, I'd say 4 or 5 weeks.
So
in terms of...
I do think it's really funny that you stopped consuming content at the same time that you launched a podcast.
Yeah. It's more of just getting... a lot of the stuff I'm consuming is that of the guests I'm researching. So I'm just trying to pull something... I think the trend of being... I think self-sovereignty, that has been something I've paid attention to, and just I think that is going to keep growing as a trend. I think more people are going to need to find ways to sustain themselves. It's kind of I feel like a broken record. I'm sure I don't know if people have heard this actually. Maybe this is the first time you're hearing about the creator economy. If this is, I would say go check out Naval Ravikant and the stuff he's written about their creator economy and becoming self-sovereign. I think the notion of becoming self-sovereign, meaning, you're in control of your time, your location, your finances. That's going to really... That desire is going to be something that a lot of people can't deny, I think, shortly. And I think the gap between people that do pursue a self-sovereign route and those that are just fine, everyone's doing their own thing, right? It just feels like the gap between the creator and the consumer is going to continue to grow in terms of awareness of broader cultural trends and status as it relates to your physical survival. I think creators are going to make a fuckload of money, a lot of fucking money. And I don't think people understand how many people are going to start doing this. Tons of people have started, but it's still, so it's always it's still so early, but it's truly still so early. If you're listening to this and have thought about making content, just do it. Just try, run an experiment.
Yeah.
That's what I would I keep revisiting that with myself, because even like you said, it's I'm coming in with these goals or whatever. It's even all that aside, it's just a way to express yourself and feel like you're connected to something bigger than you. Mm-hmm. And that I think is going to be more crucial than ever. One thing as I'm saying that's coming to mind, I'm going to pitch this. I've heard it talked about elsewhere, the meaning economy. I think the only jobs that are going to be left are those where people are creating meaning in other people's lives. Everything else is going to be okay, government mandated, or if you host, plant medicine ceremonies, you're hosting men's retreats, you're hosting women's retreats, you're hosting any retreat, you're hosting a religious ceremony, or you're some sort of modern day philosopher, you've got a lot of followers, or you're entertaining people. People are always going to people want their meaning to come from people. And that's the hill I'm willing to die on. And I think that trend of positioning yourself of okay, where do I fit into the meaning economy? How does that fit in with how I create meaning in life? Am I still someone who really wants the fast cars to go club and all that? That's all going to be well and good, but it's okay, go figure out what makes you happy and do it. And I would encourage people, I hate moralizing. I'm not saying anyone should do anything. It might be a good idea to figure out how you can create meaning in the lives of other people. And using that vehicle to create meaning in your own life, because I think we're in for a big wake up call within the next, I don't know how long with AI.
We're so young.
I know.
And it's all moving so fast.
Yeah.
If you think about even since you were born in 99,
98.
right? 98.
Yeah.
Even just those 25 years, just the last 5 years, it's like if assuming that we don't step off the curb and get hit by a bus, it's what's that? What's the theory that says like when you discover one thing, the next discovery comes in like 1/4 the amount of time? I butchered that so bad. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't. Terrence McKenna's novelty theory is similar.
What's that theory?
That is like this theory. I'm butchering this. Michael, my brother, was telling me about it, that all of time is leading up to this singularity, and it's like there's this qualitative feeling of time moving quicker and quicker and quicker, and things are happening more quickly. And we see this with the emergence of new technology, AI, like more bits of information are being exchanged per unit time. And it's like that feeling that everything is like whooshing towards the singularity. Like that's fucking real. Like it's just palpable. I'm getting chills talking about it, but like I feel it.
Can I ask you one more selfish question?
Yeah.
This one's just for me.
Yeah.
It's not for the audience, so
Let's
you
do
can
it.
give it however you want.
Yeah.
Based off of what you know about me,
Yes.
is there anything that I should be doing differently?
Based off what I know about you, is there anything you should be doing differently? Approaching this podcast with more of a business mindset, because I think this is truly a gift. And I think leaning into and exploring your desires for money, status, fame, because we can all say like intellectually, like, okay, yeah, those aren't going to make me happy, whatever. Like, I would just get in there, be like, okay, like, let's just cut past that. What are those desires? Looking at them honestly and just like really leaning into them and using that to fuel the mission that you have, that is like all from good intent, and like not denying those parts of yourself and having compassion, because like I sitting across from you, like I can feel your energy, dude. Like you got a fuck ton of juice. You've got a lot of juice. That's the best way I can describe it. And I love it. It's like I'm sourcing energy from you. Like usually my social battery would be drained by now. Dude, I can feel it. And it's incredible. And I think like sharing that more with the world, dude, like I think it'd be a gift to everyone. And the way you can do that is by leaning more into, okay, hey, like, yeah, it'd be pretty fucking cool. Like maybe I do want more downloads on this. Maybe I do want more views. A little bit extra money, like more money, upgrade the setup. Like I'd say lean into that.
I love that. That's crazy. You're just in my head a little bit. I feel like I needed someone to say that to me.
Dude, yeah, give yourself the permission to feel that and be like, yeah, fuck yeah, I want that.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
One last question, but before I ask it, and then we're going to end this thing.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being here. You could have been doing anything with your day today, and you took a couple hours to come out here, talk with me. I can't tell you how grateful I am. So,
likewise, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The final question is, in one of your videos, your sleep hacks, you said to not look at yourself in the mirror right before you go to bed. And that's one where you didn't really elaborate. Now, before I go to bed every night, I'm like, don't look in the bathroom. And I don't, where did that cut? Why not?
I'm getting chills thinking about this.
Give us some context.
I can easily fall into ruminatory cycles. Like I look at myself and I'm like, wait, like I'll look at my hands and be like, how did these get here? Whose hands are these? And I can just start going insane. Like I would get really close to myself in the mirror and just start looking at all the different pores and just like, it'd be like, oh my God. It's kind of like if you've ever been high or like drunk, you just like look at yourself. You're like, what the fuck? What's going on here? Who is this guy? It's like that. But then the playfulness kind of gets stripped away quickly if I do it for too long and I'm in a certain frame of mind. It's like starting to ruminate about like, holy cow, like I'm just a meat suit. And like there's a higher self controlling this. And thinking about that has driven me insane in the past. I just start thinking like, oh my God, like, is this all a dream? Am I going to wake up at the end of this and realize that this was just a dream? before it's too late. Like, and my entire life, like I really just want to come to know what that dream is like, and just wake up from it. Truly, yeah. That's why not looking in the mirror. Like, just go to bed. You'll feel better in the morning.
That's a much more in-depth answer than I thought. I thought you were going to say something like, I don't know. It makes me arrogant. I look at how much my pecs have got bigger. So I don't know. I don't know what you were going to say, to be 100% honest with you.
Good.
That's not the direction I thought you were going to go.
No, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else?
That is all from me, dude.
Will you come back?
I would love to.
Okay, cool. Sounds
I'd love
good. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to Nick Daigler. Go check out his YouTube channel, which is just type in Nick.
Yeah, type it's at Nick Daigler, the little handle and the @ sign, the URL. But if you just Google Nick Daigler, a video is going to come up, and click on the YouTube.
Yeah, he's off to a really good start, guys. He's a really articulate dude. He's thinking about some really cool stuff that I think you should be thinking about as well. So go check out his YouTube channel. Is it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or just YouTube right now?
It's on Spotify. I think it's on Apple Podcasts as well. Check me out on Twitter as well. I
What's
do a
your
lot
handle?
of writing there. Ndaigs, Ndaigs. I'll send it to you, and it'll be in the little show notes.
Is it Twitter or is it X? Sorry.
I'm just like, this question depends on the day. Depends on my mood.
You may as well just ask me what I do for a living. Here we go with the shallow questions. You were doing so good.
Dude, yeah, that's like literally what I was thinking. I was like, okay.
I just heard the biggest groan that has never been grown.
I just
as
embodied an eye roll. Yeah. Like, you could just like feel me, just like, okay.
That's awesome. All right, go check him out on Twitter as well. What was it one time? Ndigs.
Ndigs.
And I'll put all of this in the show notes. So if you missed any of this, just scroll down, click the link, and it'll be there. Everyone, stay healthy, stay happy. We'll see you next Saturday night. Bye, guys.